So, I guess let's start from the beginning of this movie. And how did you get involved with it, and what made you want to direct it?
There's a couple of reasons of why I wanted to direct it. I think the first thing was I love the producers. The producers are great. The producers, Nelson and David Tish. I'm a big fan of personalities, and when you vibe with someone, you work with them. So I've been a fan of those guys for a while. So when they approached me, I was like, absolutely. Then I read the script, and the script was wildly different when I first got attached to it. It was very much about voodoo. There were voodoo dolls, and there was black magic, and there was all that kind of stuff. And the first thing I was like, I love the idea. I don't know if I want to do a voodoo movie. I feel like I've seen a lot of them. So how can we make it a little bit more unique from voodoo? And then the third thing was the ability to go to Thailand and be able to shoot in Thailand was extremely exciting to me. I love traveling. I love, being exposed to new and different things. So you put those three things together, and it just kind of worked out for me. And the last two is kind of what was able to adapt the script. We realized we were going to go to Thailand. We had to change the mythology to fit the locale. And so that kind of led us into this idea of this old Thai, I don't want to say legend, but this old Thai thing that we found about something called pillars, which there was an old text about back thousands of years ago. They would basically do what they called pillars, where pillars were people that would be sacrificed for the town, and they would be buried in the center of the town to basically watch over and be these protective spirits. And so we found this kind of idea of that because everything else kind of fell in place with the mythology and the story and whatnot.
So you actually had to do a little bit of research before you put the final pieces together and start filming.
Absolutely. I think when you go to a place, specifically you go to a place like Thailand that is so rich in culture, you need to make sure that you're not, number one, you're being respectful. You're not stepping on anyone's beliefs. So I think one of the first things that I wanted to do was to ensure that we were respectful of the culture. We were not villainizing a religion, and yet it gave some believability to the story, basing it in old things that we were able to dig up. And so that was a constant balancing act with us was to kind of toe that line. And so 75% of mythology is obviously just fictitious, and we completely made up in our head. And the other 25% was based on things that we researched and read. And it was important for me to when depicting this village that they were never villains. And I think that those are my favorite type of movies. If you go back and watch something like Wicker Man, that town is not, those villagers aren't villains. This is just what they do. This is part of their culture and their belief, and a way that they can protect their young and their elders. And I think that was a kind of a fascinating idea that, none of the people in Death of Me are necessarily bad. They're just doing what they have to do to preserve their way of life.
That's very true, and not giving away the ending, but that is definitely something that shines through once the film kind of comes to its conclusion.
Right.
So you're no stranger to putting together a film with a lot of mystery and secrets. How does piecing this puzzle together compare to some of your other films? Does it ever get any easier?
No, one of the things that I guess I was delusional about in becoming the director was the more movies I made, the easier it would become. And there was I'm going to make this number up, and it's probably not the right number, but there was something like it takes 10,000 hours of doing something to be an expert in it. 10,000 continuous hours of doing that. I would think that after making 14 movies, that things would get easier, but it doesn't. It just changes. Things become just different. So making this movie was, in a lot of respects, harder than some of my other films. Dealing with the language barrier is intense. Dealing with, kind of mirroring the story of what happened in that movie. But, I was a stranger in a strange land and trying to figure out the culture and, things that the way that I was used to working in America is not the way they work in Thailand, and figuring that out. And then working at the insane schedule. Like, this movie had, a 2-week prep and 20-day shoot. Now, you compare that to something like Spiral, which had, a 7-week prep and a 50-day shoot, or whatever. They're much different projects. So every movie comes with its own share of challenges, and this one was extremely intense.
Well, those were, I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. Those were kind of some of the challenges I imagined being in a different place, and maybe you'd been there or not before. But what were there some other challenges more specifically with shooting and the filming and more of the specifics of the film?
Well, I mean, again, I think the biggest thing for me was to be respectful, and that's there's certain specifically with the subject matter, you're dealing with the. And I'll give you the same example of some things that we have to deal with. So there is basically a governmental board in Thailand that follows you around when you're shooting, and they basically ensure the integrity of what you're shooting does not portray their religion or their beliefs in a negative way. And so when you're shooting a movie based in faith, based in religion, based in belief, and then you have this kind of governmental person behind you at all times with a book reading to make sure that you're not crossing any line. I felt always kind of on edge. There's that. But the actual production itself was a grueling production. I've never been to Thailand before, and I didn't realize some of the challenges we were going to face just from a practicality standpoint, which was intense. I mean, just an example is the heat of Thailand. So it's very hot there. Well, you have prosthetics and you have heavy appliances and masks. Those things would just sweat off the actors. They would put it on, and 5 minutes later it would sweat off. And after they've been in a makeup chair for 3.5 hours. So, there was a lot of things like that. But to me, I think the biggest thing was to portray this beautiful place and have this kind of really sinister yet joyous thing going on underneath, which is the celebration and the parade and whatever. But also, there was just something, you could tell there was something flowing beneath the current that was dark. Was kind of our whole thing going into it.
Awesome. That's very interesting. Well, I got to squeeze it in here. I thought Maggie Q was very, very good in this movie. So was she kind of your first choice and one of your first choices for the film? And what was it like working with her and getting her through all these scenes here that were just crazy and awesome? And she did such a fabulous job.
I'm sure she'd love to hear that. Maggie was an interesting person because she was so strong and so strong-willed and so intense because the role called for it. She's in every single scene. And literally, she's in every single scene, and she was shooting the movie out of order. And the movie is being constantly shot out of order, which meant she was running back and forth between the makeup trailer, the hair trailer, and the wardrobe trailer to when we couldn't shoot without her. So let's say, for example, she would have a 2-hour changeover. We're waiting on her to come back to set. So I think she was under a lot of stress because she knew that she had to rush back and change and put on this wardrobe and leave this makeup and then rush back, shoot for 10 minutes and rush back again. So it was an insane experience for her. She was the only person I ever talked to about the movie. So yeah, we never, I met with her once and I was like, this is awesome. She's great. This is it. So there was no one else even considered for it. In fact, this is the first movie that I've done that every single person in the movie was the only person I met with.
Wow, that's crazy. But again, I mean, she just felt like the role was for her. Like she just felt very natural in everything she did and what was going on, and it looked like she handled everything.
Awesome. I'll let her know that. I'm sure she'll know that.
Yes. So I guess that's it, but I want to thank you for your time, and it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you, and I hope to do it again one day.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be talking again for Spiral, so I'd love that.
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
How did you get involved with the movie?
Well, I just had kind of a straight up audition for it. And what's interesting is that the part was originally written for a woman in her late 40s. But the casting director, I guess, liked what I did and kind of pushed that to Darren, the director. And luckily, he had seen some of my stuff before, so he warmed up to the idea and kind of rewrote the script a little bit. So that was, that's kind of the sordid tale of how I got involved in this, but it was a huge relief. So I was like, damn, I don't know if I can play 45.
Was there when you read the script? Was there something about your character that you really liked that I guess wanted you even more to take the?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just liked the idea of playing this kind of fanatic, you know. I really I love movies about like cults or prophecies or mysticism, you know, kind of the sort of surreal, supernatural elements. And when I read the script, I was like, oh, damn, this is kind of like The Wicker Man meets The Serpent and the Rainbow. Like, it has that very surreal, mystic quality to it. And I like the fact that although my character is a villain, she's very much this, like, cult fanatic. And there's something about, I don't know, exploring the mentality behind that goes into believing in a cult and following them to the extent that you commit horrible atrocities. That's always interested me, that aspect of the human psyche, because it seems so hard to wrap your head around. Like, how could someone do something so horrible in the name of whatever this crazy shit is that they believe? But it is amazing how people justify their actions to themselves. Like, oh, it's totally cool for me to trick this woman into becoming a human sacrifice because I'm part of a thing. I'm part of a special group, and I'm a special player in that group. And, you know, this is the real deal. So this is just like, I don't know, there's something about that that's so scary to me. And I was interested. What interested me about this character was how unflinchingly casual she is about everything. Like, it's so under the radar. She really plays up the, you know, caring about her, making her food, making sure she's okay, trying to help her find her husband, and all of it is a ruse. All of it is in the name of pushing her toward being a sacrifice. And yeah, it was just really fun to play.
Awesome. Yeah, your character definitely flips. She seems very, very, very nice at first, but then isn't so much.
Yeah. Then the mask kind of flips, and you're like, oh, you're crazy. Like, you're just straight up crazy. Yeah, it's interesting.
Awesome. You mentioned Darren, and I'm guessing since he that was a huge compliment that he obviously saw your work before and obviously was interested in working with you. So,
oh my God.
So what was it like when you finally got to work with him?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, I am already a fan of his. I think and I'm not even a huge fan of graphic torture porn per se, but he brings a real sense of fun to, like, the Saw movies he's directed, including the new one that is coming out with Chris Rock that I can't wait to see. But yeah, there's a certain joy and sort of wonder he brings to the process. He's very enthusiastic. He has this very kind of hyper energy on set. You know, the wheels are always turning, and he's very encouraging of actors to kind of do whatever they have prepared, which is really fun. Like, it was a very, I don't know, I love working with Darren. He's hilarious. He's a really smart dude, too, like a great person to just have conversations with.
Awesome. Yeah, he was a great when I got to talk to him. And speaking of that, we talked when I talked to him. We talked a lot about shooting in Thailand. So how was that experience for you?
Oh my God, it was amazing. I had never been to Thailand before this project. That was my first time there, And I completely fell in love with the country and with people. I mean, they have just the sweetest, warmest populace there. I always felt very safe, like even in Bangkok, this huge, bustling city. It's just so much fun, you know. And also, your money goes a long way there. Like the most expensive part of Thailand is flying there. But once you're there, it's like you can live like a king. It's awesome. So, and I had a lot of downtime because I'm a supporting character, so I wasn't working every day. But I had a lot of time to like explore and go to temples and kind of look around. So yeah, it was fun. I would be lying if I said that wasn't, part of what interested me in doing this, at least.
Definitely a nice vacation, sort of work vacation.
Yeah. Oh my God, how often does that happen?
I have to ask. Also, you worked a lot with Maggie Q, who was obviously the star of the movie and very good in the movie. What was it like working with her?
Yeah. Very inspiring. And I don't like to throw that word around. I feel like it gets used too much. But it really was, like, she is someone who really has her shit together. Like, I don't know, it was just kind of nice. Like, I am such a mess in general. Like, I just always have kind of been like that. So it was cool to be like, wow, this person takes care of themselves and eats right and exercises, and maybe I should try doing that. So I did for a little bit. It's pretty cool, I guess.
Awesome.
But Maggie is super pro. She's like one of the most professional. I mean, she comes from a kung fu background. Like, she was making movies in China for years before she ever came to America. Like, she has just the most insane work ethic. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what Darren seemed to say about her, that she's very disciplined, and obviously, the movie had so much to do with her. So, I mean...
Yeah, and she had to do a lot.
And,
like, it was a physically taxing film, too.
And I guess I want to squeeze it in there, make sure we get time for this one. What do you think fans are going to like most about this movie, and what should they expect from it?
Well, I really think that people will like being taken down this sort of surreal forest path, you know? There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of cool mythos that they created around this cult. A lot of it is based on real sort of Thai witchcraft things, because once upon a time they did engage in human sacrifice, and a lot of the human sacrifices were volunteers who wanted to kind of give their life to protect their village and stuff like that. So I don't know if this is necessarily what people should expect, but I really like the statement it makes about cults and cult mentality. Because again, I mean, that's just really interesting to me. And they should expect some crazy visuals. It's a very visually rich film. And I should actually take a moment to shout out Luke Hemsworth, who's also wonderful in the movie and was an absolute joy to work with. Also so professional, hilarious, really good dude. So I have to shout him out as well.
Yes, no, he was terrific in the movie as well. Didn't mean to overshadow him, but obviously a lot of the movie
no, not at all.
is centered
there's a
around.
Lot of movie there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to unpack, I think.
Yes, definitely. But you've seemed like a very big horror fan, so I'm sure this was an absolute pleasure for you as well.
Oh man, yeah, it was so much fun. I had to pinch myself.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time, and very nice job with the movie. Yeah. It was a terrific movie, and I definitely enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate that, man.
Oh, you're very welcome. And again, thank you for your time, and it's been a pleasure talking with you.
It's been a pleasure talking with you, Omar. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.